Welcome to the podcast, where street smart, business smart, all kinds of smart people share their insights into the world of marketing, career journeys, and personal growth. So sit back and prepare to get enlightened with your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, where I bring you the best and brightest from the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Tribe, let's get back to talent acquisition and recruiting. I know we took a little detour recently with some really awesome, fun guests, but let's get back to the roots of what this show is all about, and I could not have a better guest to do that today. Michael Kascsak is truly an industry vet and a thought leader with over 20 years of performance in developing, executing, and supporting high-level hiring initiatives to strengthen operational performance and improve competitive positioning. What the heck does that all mean? We'll get to it. This guy is just a recruiting TA legend, and he began his career with Aerotech and also managed his own staffing firm, which really gives a unique perspective, and we'll certainly dig that in a little bit. But then he went on to corporate recruiting, and let's just drop some names here. Bank of America, Capital One, Seabury, right? Did they do Seabury, or did they actually spell out the letters there? Anyway, let's talk about
CBRE. Yeah.
CBRE. Most recently, head of talent acquisition at a little company called PayPal. And he has recently, congratulations, accepted a new role with another little teeny tiny company called Google, doing some work for them over for Google North America. And we'll talk about his new role and how awesome that is. And when he's not doing talent acquisition, he's a foodie, a wine collector, and enjoys spending time with his wife and 4-year-old daughter. But we won't know how that's going to last after the last few weeks of quarantine. We'll see if they still all enjoy each other's company there. And I had the pleasure to meet Michael in Dallas in September at Talent Connect. And I'm thrilled to have him on the show today to share his story and so much more insight into the world of talent acquisition. Michael, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thanks for having me, Adam. I really appreciate it. Looking forward
stuff.
to it.
So, I think I did a pretty good job of giving my tribe, your background story. But let's dig in a little bit more. I'd love, from your perspective, to kind of hear where it all started, man. Like, how'd you get into talent, and how did you get to where we are today?
Yeah. I've been very fortunate in my career to have found TA right out of college. Like most people, I didn't go to college and say I want to be a recruiter.
Not many. I don't know if that's offered in college, right? That's not a college course.
Yeah, exactly. I think there might be some curriculum these days, but back when I was in school, not a word of it. So, I was out looking for jobs and stumbled upon staffing agency. Really didn't know much about it, but I remember back when I was giving the interview, I walked in and there was walked through a recruiting pit to get to the office of the branch manager. And I just looked around and I saw people that I could relate to. It was high energy. It just looked like it was competitive. People were standing up on the phones, and
it was action.
as soon as we got into the branch manager's office, I just started asking a ton of questions. And so, lo and behold, I really, I had the DNA to be an agency recruiter. I just didn't know it. And so, with the proper training, Aerotech is a wonderful place to get trained. I really found my niche and, loved the side of the agency, of the competitiveness, the sense of urgency, the relationship building. As I started to do all of that, I was getting to the sales aspect of the agency side. And, as I was meeting with my clients, I was fascinated by not just the requisitions that I was getting, but why I was getting them. And so, as I was doing that, and as I was forging relationships with many, business stakeholders on the corporate side, I realized that I had a passion for what they were doing and the why behind, the hunt. And so, I decided early on that, after I had my own firm, that it was time for me to make that step over to corporate. And when I did at the time, corporate recruiting was, somewhat the, with all due respect, the offer letter preparers and the background check runners and, very administrative.
Office stuff,
and so, and I had this, theory in my head that, I wanted to bring the agency to corporate America. I wanted to bring, the sense of urgency, the relationship building, when you go into an intake session with a manager, you're asking those questions, those smart questions, and you're getting, you're going out and you're getting them passive candidates and bringing them in. So I wanted all of that, and had the opportunity to open that door, and it's been a wonderful ride since. Like I said, I've had the opportunity to work for some amazing companies, work with some amazing people. It's been a fun ride, and I don't really ever see myself detouring from TA. I've had some opportunities here and there to go into some generalist roles and some other things, but I've always stayed true to TA. It's just a passion of mine, and I love what I do.
I love it, and that's just a tremendous career story, and congrats on the move to Google. So let's kind of just round that out now. What are you going to be doing for Google?
Yeah, so I am going to be running the sourcing function for software engineering for North America. So super excited. Have the opportunity to stay here in Austin. Google is investing heavily in Austin. Just love the match there, and it's an elite company that I'm humbled to be a part of.
That's fantastic, and congratulations. And I'm really looking forward. We were supposed to connect in March when I came out there for South by, but that got canceled. So I mean, at the very least, I'll be out there next March, and we could certainly break bread, have a drink. Definitely like to check out the Google headquarters there. So let's jump into it.
Absolutely.
You kind of hit on something that I didn't think I was going to mention, but I kind of want to round off on that. I truly believe also that in-house recruiters, if they have that agency background, there is such a difference. And that's something that I look for when I build in-house teams too, because it's like that speed to market, that understanding of the sense of urgency. But that's not always the case, right? Sometimes you inherit a team, you're hiring folks. How do you instill those agency, the things that you learned in the agency into the in-house side? How do you bring that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, I mean, just to kind of go back, I do look for that, that person that has shown that they have those abilities to operate in an environment like an agency. But there are corporate recruiters now, especially nowadays, that come with that sense of urgency and understand the need to influence, build relationships. And so, a lot of it is, when you build the right team, you're playing on people's strengths. And, I'm a big proponent of looking at the strengths of my team and making sure that I leverage those. And, yes, you always want to help people develop and, look through their opportunities, but I'd rather, make sure that we're doubling down on all of the positive strengths that you bring to the table. And so, when you put an agency recruiter and a corporate recruiter together, and they start to share and collaborate and work together, they really become the same type of recruiter. And so it's really about just collaboration, transparency. I'm big on just having a full view of what's going on, all of the metrics, all of the day-to-day, and make it transparent. And then let's hold each other accountable. Let's share best practices. Let's raise our hands for ourselves and ask for help. And then you create a team where people want to help others. Yeah. And so that's just kind of a philosophy that I've always had.
Fantastic. I mean, I have a fraction of the experience that you have, but one of the things that I've really seen to be successful is when the recruiters, and we're talking about in-house recruiters, that they're not just focused on filling roles. They're not just focused on putting a warm body in the seat, but they're really embracing the understanding the business need. Why do we need this role here? Almost being kind of that hybrid HR BP, kind of being an HR person, understanding, putting yourself in the role of the manager and truly understanding what's required of this role and why, because that's what's going to really round you out and add more value, right? And we get back to this idea of adding more value. I'd love to understand some of the coaching. Something that you really love to do is coaching and developing people. Like, what's your kind of approach to coaching? How do you really find these strengths that you were talking about before, and then how do you nurture and develop them, or help people who have deficiencies and need some training?
Yeah. I've always believed that, you should create an environment that is a safe place for people to fail. And people enjoy coming to work. They're surrounded by people that want to see them succeed. And if you can set that tone with a team and show them that you truly care about them. Honestly, Adam, when I look at my team, whatever, past teams, present teams, future teams, I don't look at my top performer and my somebody that's kind of struggling to turn the curve, I don't look at them any different as far as how I care
Right.
about them and the time that I want to invest in them and the coaching and development. Some of the development that I give is going to be different, but the amount of attention and the energy that I put in is the same. And so if you have a team that looks at you and says, wow, my leader cares no matter what, then that's the most important thing. That's how you start building a highly functional recruiting team, is you get them to all know that you care. And it's genuine. You have to be genuine about it. And then, lo and behold, you actually have a team that cares about each other. And so, recruiting is I've always said this, recruiting is a very thankless job.
Yeah.
You wreck and
First to be under the bus,
move on
right?
to the next wreck. Yes. If something goes wrong, then there's an email sent to your manager and the whole freaking world is CC'd on it, and everything goes sideways, and you have to, put a business case together on why you did it. And so, we have to give each other pats on the back. We have to lift each other up when we're down, and we have to rely on each other for some needed energy.
Yeah, I love it. And you hit on so many things too, which was a question I was going to have later on about your approach to leadership. But I think you really just outlined and defined it. And kudos, man. I mean, really setting the example and can totally see how and why you've gotten so far in your career. So kudos on that one. I want to talk about, big teams, right? Like the first question is, do you miss working with smaller teams? I could assume now that you're managing pretty large teams.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I do. I miss, what I've found though is that the skip levels and the interactions I have on all hands and things like that, it just makes me more focused to get to know everybody, even if it's just, a small interaction with somebody. I really truly focus and I'm really engaged in my team. And so, I take a lot of pride in knowing each and every single person in my organization, large or small. And so, I love, I still love going to happy hours. And I mean, now we're doing all these virtual, happy hours.
Oh, they're crazy.
And so it's great to, I actually said this to my team, as I was, because I'm obviously in the middle of a transition, and I said this to my team, and I truly mean it. As I'm leaving, I'm not going to remember your time to fill or how many hires you had per month, or, I'm going to remember your character. I'm going to remember your spirit. I'm also going to have all those memories of, births and marriages and graduations and all of those things. Those are, and, now more than ever, it's important for us to embrace that. And I think, I know we'll probably, obviously talk about the topic of COVID, but
we'll get there.
we're, it's such an important time for us to make sure that we are fully engaged with our teams.
And there's something interesting there too. I mean, I could hear it in your voice, and I could kind of get a sense of the way you manage. It's about being vulnerable as a leader. And I think it's really hard too. And I think times have changed over the last 20 years. And it's crazy that I could date myself now, where I've been in the workforce for 20 years. It's fucking like, whoa, I've been working for 20 years. And it's changed a lot. When people throw around that word vulnerable, especially from a leadership perspective, how does that translate with you?
I mean, first and foremost, I mean, it's a trait that I bring to the table, that if a company I'm going to work for doesn't value my vulnerability, then I'm at the wrong place. I'm a work in progress, and will always be a work in progress. And, whether it be in a small team, a large team, I approach it as, I don't have all the answers, and we as a collective team will get to the solution. But let's be honest, there is not one person that I've run across that can that has every single answer and can solve every single problem. And so, it's just about being real. I mean, it really is. It's, being vulnerable just means that you're being real and you're being true to yourself. Yeah. And I love learning. I love learning from people. And, when I took on this job at PayPal, I transitioned halfway through into more of a global role. And, I met with my team in Shanghai and my team in Bangalore. And the first thing I told them was, I'm going to learn more from you than you are from me here in the short term.
That's great.
I need you to teach me. And so, you gotta open yourself up to that. And you gotta know that, hey, if you expect your people to to operate in a safe environment, then you also should operate in a safe environment and not be afraid to fail in front of everyone.
No, that's tremendous too. So let's talk recruiting shop for a little bit. I love talking to seasoned pros
Cool.
here. And the way I like to phrase this, if you had a brand new recruiter, right, someone who's either coming out of school, coming out of maybe a little bit of agency work too, and they were there first day, meeting you, meeting the team, what is that one golden piece of advice that you would give them to be successful in recruiting?
Don't hide behind the computer. Don't hide behind. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, technology is amazing. It is freaking amazing, but it can also be such a hindrance
It's a crutch.
if you get sucked into whether it's your ATS system or your CRM, and you're literally you're being a robot. And so, the best piece of advice is, make sure you bring your personality, make sure you bring a human touch, whether it's to your candidate, to your hiring managers, to your business partners. Don't hide behind the computer. And there are times where you can't have that face to face, but leverage. We're all doing it now,
Yeah.
video conferencing. Make sure you're looking at your colleagues straight in the eyes and building relationship with them.
Yeah, you got to do it digitally. Absolutely. So where do you see, listen, you're hiring recruiters. They're coming from all different types of places. And I'm sure some of them kind of struggle coming into these large organizations, whether it be Google, PayPal, CBRE, whatever it is. Where do you think that struggle is? Is it because the teams are so big? Are they coming into such a large matrix organization? Like, how do you make a big place feel small and intimate? And as I mute myself here, because my kid is yapping upstairs.
Oh, no, that's awesome. First and foremost, as a company, you have to create an environment where you give people time to understand and learn the landscape. If you're going in for your first day, week, month, and you are the receiver of somebody that's coming in, and you don't build in that time frame that they need to get acclimated, then that sucks for you, because you are not going to get somebody that feels like they're part of the journey. And so it is tough when you deal with a company that is large and is matrix oriented. The best thing that you can do is listen and be a sponge. Don't assume you have all the answers, because what one company does well, another company may do better. And so it's really important when you walk into a new organization, and I'm about to do it, is to shut up and listen and learn as much as you can, and know that you've got a lot to learn. And anytime you hit that reset button and walk into a new company, your learning curve starts over, and you have to embrace that. And you have to walk in and know that you don't have all the answers. And so it's really a two-way street, because the company has to be receiving of you and accept the fact that there is a learning curve. And then you've got to accept the fact that your learning curve is there.
Right. Is there anything that you're scared about stepping foot day one into Google?
Petrified. Honestly.
you're going to get some cool t-shirts and stuff.
Yeah. No, look, Google is, I'm humbled at the opportunity. And if I were to tell you that I wasn't nervous, it would be a flat out lie. And look, nerves, I have embraced nerves from day one. Maybe it's the sports in me that I was nervous before a big game. I'm nervous before a big meeting. I'm nervous before a big speech, and it keeps me grounded. And so I'm nervous going into to my new role. I'm nervous about the value that I'm going to add to a company like Google. But you know what? Those nerves are going to keep me grounded. They're going to keep me focused. And at the end of the day, I'm going to go in and add value however I can, and I'm going to learn it. I'm going to learn a shit ton too. So that's what I'm excited about.
No, that's exciting, man. So I want to go back and you talk about building a TA organization and TA strategies through the eyes and lens of the recruiter and source. So let's unpack that a little bit. I found it fascinating.
Yeah. Another philosophy that I've held on to for a while. I can't tell you how frustrated I am when I see some type of technology that's been configured by, and you could tell the fingerprints are lawyers and compliance and this, and it's like, where where was the recruiter or the sourcer or the coordinator in the development of this tool? And so, when I embark upon any type of implementation, whether it be a process or technology, I always look for, okay, let me get some subject matter experts in the room, and they're people that I deliberately put people that are outspoken and can articulate things that are important to them.
Have a point
and
of view.
I also, yes, absolutely. And I also, always think about, I am not and if I'm not the end user, if I am not the user, I need somebody in the room that is, and I need to trust them. And so, it's very important that we never lose sight of the fact that, we're building these processes and tools to enable our recruiters and sourcers to do a better job. So if the tool that we're handing them is a hindrance, then it's counterproductive. And so I would much rather build the right tool for them that they're excited about than hand them something and them, it's just a lackluster, check the box. Hey, we've got a new CRM type of a deal. And
right. Like just because one contract ended, you don't need to just jam anything down people's throats.
Exactly. And the other thing too, Adam, is I'm a recruiter. I will always be a recruiter. And so, if I'm going to give a tool to my team, I better know how to use it. I better know the functionality. And so I like to get my hands dirty, and I love looking at new technology and things that are going to help enable my team. So it's very important to always keep that recruiter hat on.
Right. You got to stay, it's, going a little Gary Vee-ism here. It's clouds and dirt, right? Like that's the way I operate too. Like you need to be in the clouds, leading, managing, strategy, high level, looking out for your teams. And sometimes you got to get your hands dirty and roll up your sleeves and sit side by side. Because how the hell is somebody going to trust you if you haven't done it yourself? Right? How do you mentor somebody, if you haven't done it yourself? And I think that's, a big part about the culture, right? Like when you're building the culture of a TA team, because there's a unique culture. Listen, in every company, there's subcultures within the overall company culture, for sure. And in TA, you kind of hit the nail on the head on all that stuff, right? It's about accountability. It's about training. It's about, picking people up and supporting them as best as possible. So, how does somebody get hired? We'll talk about like a mid-level recruiter. Like, what's the best way to get hired at one of these big companies? Yeah. How do you stand out, especially now when there's so many good recruiters on the market? How do you differentiate yourself as a recruiter in the hiring process for a recruiter?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that recruiters have the ability to do is to showcase your networking skills while you're trying to network and get that in. And so, anytime, whether it be LinkedIn or just meetups or what have you, you have to be on. You've been given the opportunity to showcase your skill, and you're going to do your job by how you interact with me or any hiring manager that's out there. So I always tell people, be careful, the generic in-mails or the corporate overspeak. I mean, all of those things, in my opinion, they work against you when you're trying to network. If you're real, if you be yourself and you take the opportunity to show what differentiates you, you're gonna get more attention.
I truly think, and I love your thought on this, and maybe it's just me because I'm a little bit of a showman and the way I do my recruitment too, but I think there's an element of performance, there's an element of showmanship that goes into recruiting too, because that's how you engage, that's how you build a rapport. I mean, obviously there's no substitute for the real relationship, but you're, and I hate to use the word selling a job or selling a company because you shouldn't have to do that, but you're representing, and one piece, and I'm trying to coin this one, I'll let you borrow it because you're a good guy. I like to say the recruiter is the first touch that a potential new employee has with any organization. They are the gatekeeper. They are the brand ambassador. And that's why it's so important when I interview recruiters to work for me or when I go in, I sell myself by saying this: I'm going to be the one that's representing your company. I'm going to know your company inside and out. I'm going to treat it as my own, that I work there. So you be proud to put me in front and be that gatekeeper, be that doorman to your nightclub. Right. And who gets in and who doesn't. And that's something that I really try to talk about a lot here. And what are some of those advantages? Because some people may say, listen, I love the mom and pop shops. I like working with, 3 people here in this company. What are some of those advantages to working at a big Google, PayPal, What makes it special and different?
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you what I've really enjoyed is, the opportunity to come in and be a value add in so many different ways. There are a variety of projects going on, of problems to solve. And so, when you get into an organization that is fairly large and complex, you know, as you as you get your feet underneath you, you start to see either some low-hanging fruit or some really massive problems that you can actually take part in solving. And so I love the opportunity to do something off the side of my desk that is going to benefit my company and myself. And so these great companies that I've worked for have enabled me to do that. And a lot of it too is, when I look at a company and I think of, what are they doing for their community as well? What are they doing for the greater
Right.
good of us? And so I love being able to take part in that. And whether it's, building a new product for, a certain demographic, or rolling out something that is going to, to change and flip the status quo on its head. I mean, I love just being on a team that was a part of that.
That's absolutely fantastic. And I want to double back because I'd love to get your perspective on, candidate experience, your philosophy. I mean, we could spend a whole 3 or 4 other podcasts, like digging into the nuts and bolts over there. But like, what's your philosophy on candidate experience?
Yeah, and this has probably been said a lot. I know I've said it a lot, but it is worth repeating over and over. Um, Almost every time when you're dealing with a candidate, I think almost every single person that works in, especially in a corporate setting, that candidate is either a customer of your company or a potential customer of your company. And so when they leave that experience, whether they get the job or not, it has to be a positive experience for them, because like you just said, you're a brand ambassador for your company. You're the first point of contact, and you are the company in their eyes. And so if you give them that wow experience, if you give them that extra touch, if you communicate with them the way that you should, then they're going to leave with such a positive vibe about your company. And
Exactly.
so candidate, I mean, I could talk about candidate experience for it is just, there would be, we could talk about, hiring manager stat and all this and ROIs on this and that, but at the end of the day, it's the candidates are what it's all about.
Exactly.
It's entirely what our jobs are. Our jobs are helping people get jobs. And so the first part of that is helping people. And we have to always keep that in the front of our minds.
100% too. And I think it really boils down to one core practice and philosophy, and it's managing expectations. It's managing communications and managing expectations. So the candidates know where they stand in the process. They understand what's happening with timing, and that solves everything. Because at the end of the day, we just want to know as a candidate, we want to know what the
Yes.
heck is
Yes.
happening. Where do I stand? What is the
Exactly.
feedback? What's the time frame here? And that's really,
Yeah.
what's important. And then, flipping it to the other side of that, when we talk about employer branding, right? How is a company perceived in the marketplace in the eyes of people interviewing and candidates? What's your philosophy and approach on company branding from a TA perspective?
Yeah, I mean, look, right now is a great example of company branding. What you're doing for your employee base right now, and how you are leaning into this environment is employee branding. And I made I made a little post on LinkedIn that said, I welcome my team, all of my team's family members, kids on our conference calls. I want to see your family. And the tone there was, let's embrace people for who they are. Let's understand and be empathetic of everything that's going on with people, whether it be, having to take care of family members, having kids that are
Exactly.
homeschooled now. And I mean, there's all sorts of new balls that are in the air. And I think as a company, whether you like it or not, you're being judged right now on how you are handling this and how you are treating your employee base. And so there's a
1,000,000%.
lot of companies that are standing out, and you're like, wow. And then there are companies where you're like, yep, I knew they would do it because that's who they are. And then there's some other companies you're like, wow, okay, that's probably not a sustainable way of handling things, and you worry about it. But I tell people right now, if you want to know how strong of a brand your company has and how you feel about your company, take a step back and think about how you're being treated as an employee for that company, and how they're rallying around you and their community. And so, employee branding is, a lot of it is just, it's out there. It's if you're transparent about how you treat your employee base and how you're treating your community, then your brand speaks for itself, good or bad.
Yeah, and that's a good transition too. I mean, we talk about that now in the age of COVID, right? Like how a company's perceived internally and externally. I mean, you're not in role yet. I mean, but any insight, whether in your previous on the way out of PayPal, like how is COVID generally affecting the talent acquisition trends right now? And I could just say personally, like if we're talking industry agnostic, right? Like yes, there are some folks that are still hiring, some are still frozen right now. But it changed on a dime. I mean, it was a great candidate driven market up until about 6 weeks ago, and now all bets are off.
No, it is. It's been very interesting, and I've obviously talked with a lot of my colleagues and peers across the globe, and the TA world right now it's there are pockets of focus, and I think what I've seen is companies that have a goal of they've got 15 to 20 top priorities that they were facing pre-COVID, now have said, okay, we're going to take 3 to 5 of these priorities, and we are going to be exceptional at them. We're going to hit home runs on every single one of these. And so those priorities are the ones that are associated to hiring or talent. And so, what I've seen is just a more narrow focus, but a need to hit a home run every time. And so, whether it be PayPal or Google, the goal is to make sure that the bandwidth that we're using right now is of the utmost priority and is time well spent and is going towards a top priority for the company, a top 1, 2, 3 priority. And I think before that, there was a lot of competing priorities and a lot of things that and so we would be hiring somebody that may or may not be a needle mover because they were decked against a project that was now when you bring somebody into the company, I guarantee you're bringing somebody in that needs to make a difference.
Right, exactly. And here's another thing too. Never, and in my recent time, and I've only been in this game, a fraction of you, but never has so much amazing A-list talent, A-quality talent been available on the open market. Right. It's almost like free agency right now. And to your point, a company, there's a good and a bad here. One, that those people are going to get scooped up, but it also kind of sucks for those B's and C's out there who are maybe people out of work beforehand and people that may not be as strong. It's going to be a lot tougher for them to find a job because there's limited opportunities. And it's just going to be interesting to play out. And also, the other part that we haven't talked about is how, all of these interviews now are all remote. Right. We're doing it all remote. I mean, I personally feel there's a real value for folks coming on site to meet people face to face and do that. But do you think this is going to be a trend that's going to continue for a while, even when this gets all sorted out? Like, are we going to stick with this remote aspect of talent and working, or nothing can replace face to face?
It's a great question. And I've actually had this conversation a multitude of different times, and I've given somewhat of the same answer. And some of the times I've talked on both sides of my mouth. So, you can push me one side or the other if I start doing that. But I really feel like, we're embracing technology. But the most important thing that I've seen is what this is doing is it's humanizing us. It's creating the same playing field for every single one of us. And so when we're interviewing somebody, I went through that process where I was on a video interview, and as soon as we hit the link, somebody's 5-year-old burst into the room, and we just looked at each other and started laughing, and because I could, I have a 4-year-old, and it was just like,
Yeah.
and talk about an icebreaker.
We're all doing it together.
Talk about an opportunity to just get to know somebody before you actually dive into, and that turned into a 2-hour interview because of the conversation that we had and the way that it flowed. And so I would love to be able to see us continue this and make sure that we are all grounded and stay human, and we're not hiding behind the, I bring the analogy up, but one of the first things I remember about when things started to change with how things were relayed was the news. And I looked on the news, and you see people broadcasting from their home, no makeup, and I actually started to become more engaged in the news and saw them
that's a great point.
as humans. And so, this is now, and this is now the, I don't want to use the cliche, the new norm, but I hope that it's something that sticks, that we don't have to hide behind smoke and mirrors. We don't have to hide behind these big, huge presentations and lights and things. We can just be ourselves.
Exactly. I absolutely love it. Michael, fantastic insight. So let's bring it home here. And I love to ask all my guests, a series of questions here, because I love to get the perspective. This is the way I learn. I'm not a book reader anymore. I don't got time for that shit. I got little kids. When I have my free time, I want to watch my Netflix and just kind of chill. So I learn from experts like you, and I appreciate your time so much. Michael, what's the greatest piece of advice that you've ever received that you take action on every single day?
Oh, you know what? Honestly, I'm gonna bring up a Gary Vee one. I know we have that love for him in common, and you've heard this, and as morbid as this is, it's true. We're all gonna die, and so I wake up every day, and I'm like, I need to take advantage of the time that I have, and I know it's not cheesy. It's true. Whether it be the opportunities that present themselves and going after them, or just enjoying some downtime with my daughter. I want to relish in the moments, and I don't want to take them for granted. And so, I wake up every day, and I really do think about that. I think about relishing in the moments that I have. And, it's also about embracing we all go through these times of resiliency and anxiety, and I like to embrace that, and it keeps me alive.
I love it, man. And you have such a storied, accomplished career, but if you could kind of put your pin into one major accomplishment that you're the most proud of, what would that be professionally?
Oh, wow. What a tough question.
There's no softballs here, dude. Come on, man.
Yeah.
We don't deal with that shit. I come with the hard hitting stuff.
I would answer it through giving you a list of every single name of every person that I have had the privilege to promote in my career. I love watching people's careers flourish and grow and develop. And so, whether it be at my own company or if they leave and they go on to bigger, better things, I love watching people take their careers and progress them and be successful. And so I would go back and say, I would give you all of those names, every single one of them. And I would say that's the proudest.
And that is a tremendous answer. COVID question, we're all experiencing, the same thing together. It's a great neutralizer. I mean, I can't even imagine any time in human history, maybe during the ice age, right? Like when everybody was kind of on the same playing field, but there are a lot of bright spots. I'd love if you could share a personal silver lining and a professional silver lining that you've experienced over the past couple months.
Yeah, there's a lot, man. There is you really, at times like this, you get to see the greatness in people. I actually had, I was managing a team in Shanghai, and January, this was my life. And I was scared for them, and I didn't realize the magnitude until it really started to come closer to home. And so one of the things I take from that experience is, as things started to get better in China, I watched my team in Shanghai reach out to the partners here in the States and in Europe, and they sent masks. They were there to answer questions. I mean, it's inspiring. It was absolutely inspiring, and this was something that happened organically. And so, for me, it's something it's something I'll never forget. And it went from us here in the States and EMEA worrying so much about them and checking in on them every day, to then all of a sudden, the roles got reversed, and they were, checking on us and sending us, care packages. And it was just like I said, it brings out the best in people. And
world came together.
For me, yeah. And for me personally, I've got to spend so much time with my daughter. And, I was a road warrior. I mean, I was traveling almost, it was every other week, sometimes every week. And so, being able to work from home and take those breaks, and then just walk out of my office doors and every morning, I always wait to hear when my daughter wakes up, and no matter what call I'm on, whatever, I put it on pause or hit mute, and then I go, I'm able to hug my daughter and see her and give her, that morning hug. And
I love it.
And I love that. And it's just been amazing. And I'm watching her, grow up.
It's so incredible, right? Like, these are the moments, and not to get too philosophical, not religious or anything, right? But like, I feel it was a sign from Earth that we just need to pause and slow down and get back to what's important now. Michael, and last but not least, right? Not every day is sunshine and rainbows, right? Sometimes you're really in the dirt, you're in the mud, and you got to pull yourself up. You got to pull your team up. And in other days, like as you just said, you have the opportunity to watch your daughter grow up and not miss all that time and make up for lost time and all that good stuff. Whether you're down, whether you're up, showing gratitude, Michael, what is your North Star?
My North Star is that, I want to leave a legacy. I want to, when I'm gone, I don't care if it's, people, when they say Michael Kascsak, whether it's associated to what I've done for a living, the father that I am, the husband that I am, I want that legacy to be one that inspires people, and one that puts a smile on people's faces. And I love the job that I do because I get to interact with so many people. And then, I love, the best job title that I will ever have in my entire life is dad. It is the absolute best. There will never be another title
Amen.
more important to me. And so I take that seriously. And, I want my daughter to grow up knowing that her dad's there to support her, that her dad loves her, and I want to watch her success. And so, I have to take care of myself. I have to take care of my family so that she can do all of that. And so, my North Star is that, and it's, her name is Giada, and I'm just, I can't wait to see the amazing things that she's going to accomplish.
Michael, thank you. That was incredible. I am grateful for your time. I'm grateful for our relationship. And when this smoke clears, please, next time you come to New York, we'll go to a Met game. We'll go to a Yankee game. Maybe we'll go to a Met Yankee game.
Love it. Love it.
Love it. Show you around a little bit. Where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more about you and your journey?
Yeah, Twitter, MK411. And, I'm obviously, I'm on LinkedIn religiously. And, I've been trying to take a little bit of a social media break from just to, through all of this. But, I'm out there. I'm not one that's going to post every single day. And I like to think about things before I do that. And then every now and then we'll drop some posts out there.
I love it, man. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate it, man. Anytime.
Awesome. Good stuff. And everybody listening and joining us, I really hope that you gained a ton of insight information. Hope we made you laugh, smile, a little bit of tear at the end with that awesome North Star. I absolutely love it. Please catch up on previous episodes at thepodcast.com. All of our social media handles, links below, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, wash your hands, and look out for each other. Be good.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode jam-packed with more incredible humans. For more info, please visit www.nhptalentgroup.com.